ladies and gentlemen. I want you to listen to me very carefully. Have you ever noticed how heavy it feels to hold on to someone who has already left you in spirit? It's like carrying a stone in your pocket, convincing yourself it has value, while all it does is weigh you down. This is why most people remain exhausted, not because life is too hard, but because they refuse to set down what is no longer theirs to carry. And this is where your journey begins. If you listen carefully today, you will realize that letting go is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything. Focus on yourself, and life will unfold in ways you cannot yet imagine. Stay with me until the end, and you will understand why walking away from what holds you back is the greatest act of strength you will ever perform. We suffer because we cling to permanence, as if people, relationships, and circumstances are meant to last forever. But nothing in life is permanent. Everything moves, everything shifts, everything evolves. When you resist this truth, you chain yourself to disappointment. But when you accept it, you begin to move freely, like a river that never questions why it must leave the mountain to reach the ocean. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for things that are no longer alive in your world. You give up the struggle of forcing what is not meant to stay, and in return, you gain your freedom. Freedom is not about having everything you want. It's about no longer being enslaved by what you don't need. When you turn inward, when you place focus back on yourself, life becomes lighter. You start to see how much of your time has been spent trying to please people, defend yourself, explain yourself. But silence is stronger than explanation. The moment you stop trying to convince others of your worth, you begin to live it. Solitude, often feared, is not a punishment but a gift. Alone, you rediscover your voice, your rhythm, your essence. Away from the noise of others' opinions, you find clarity. And clarity is power. Growth is always disguised as loss. Every time someone walks away, life is not punishing you, it is preparing you for deeper strength, for sharper wisdom, for a version of yourself that you have not yet met. And if you are brave enough to stop chasing, you will see that endings are nothing more than doors to new beginnings. Energy is the most precious currency you possess. Whatever you give your attention to grows. When you waste it on people who do not respect or value it, you keep yourself stuck in a cycle of emptiness. But when you focus that same energy on your growth, your healing, your path, life begins to expand in directions you never thought possible. Walk forward, not with anger, not with revenge, but with calm resolve. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the lesson. Focus on yourself so deeply that the world cannot help but notice. And when they wonder where you disappeared, you'll already be far ahead, living the life they never thought you could. Because the greatest victory is not in proving them wrong, it is in proving yourself right. The weight of clinging is something almost everyone experiences, yet very few stop to notice. We hold on to people, to memories, to relationships, as if our entire sense of self is dependent on them. It feels safer to cling to what is familiar, even if it is heavy, than to face the unknown of letting go. And so we drag along pieces of the past like stones in our pockets, convinced that they are treasures. But in truth, they are burdens that quietly drain our strength. The tragedy is not in losing others. The tragedy is in losing ourselves by refusing to release them. Think of how often people stay tied to relationships that no longer nurture them. They tell themselves stories. Maybe things will change. Maybe they will return to who they once were. Maybe if I try harder, love deeper, explain better, then this bond will feel alive again. But love, respect, and connection cannot be forced. If they are gone, no amount of clinging will bring them back. Instead, what happens is the slow erosion of your spirit. You bend and twist yourself trying to keep something intact until you forget the shape of who you really are. Clinging is born from fear. The fear of being alone, the fear of starting over, the fear of facing emptiness. But what we forget is that clinging does not preserve connection. It suffocates it. A bird cannot soar if your hands are wrapped around its wings. A relationship cannot breathe if one person is dragging the other forward, and you cannot grow when your energy is bound to something that has already ended. By holding on to what no longer belongs in your life, you create your own suffering. You trap yourself in a loop where pain becomes familiar and familiarity is mistaken for comfort. What would happen if you let go? Most people imagine devastation, emptiness, or regret. But what truly happens is release. Imagine unclenching your fist after holding it tight for so long. It aches, yes, but then it relaxes. It remembers what freedom feels like. The same is true with your heart. Letting go may hurt at first, because it disrupts the illusion of control, but soon after, space is created. And in that space, something new can arrive. Something lighter, more aligned with who you are becoming. The irony of clinging is that it doesn't preserve connection. It destroys your ability to see clearly. You become so focused on holding on that you miss the signs the universe is giving you. You miss the opportunities for growth, the people waiting to enter your life, the strength waiting to rise within you. The weight of clinging blinds you to the truth that you are not losing something essential, you are making room for something greater. Consider water in your hand. The tighter you close your grip, the faster it slips away. But if you open your palm, you may catch what you need without struggle. People, experiences, and moments are much the same. They flow in and out of your life according to their purpose. Some are meant to stay for years, some only for days, and some simply pass through to teach you one lesson and then depart. The pain arises when you try to freeze what is meant to flow. The real question is not whether you can keep someone, but whether you can keep yourself. Can you hold on to your dignity, your peace, your values, even if others choose to walk away? Can you release them without bitterness, without clinging to resentment as a substitute for connection? This is the true test of strength. Not in forcing relationships to last, but in letting them end gracefully while preserving your soul. The weight of clinging is invisible, but its effects are obvious. You feel drained, anxious, restless. You replay conversations, trying to extract meaning from words that were never sincere. You analyze silences, hoping they hide secret affection. You bend your life around the hope that someone will return or finally notice your worth. And all the while, your energy is being siphoned into a void. What you don't realize is that the very act of clinging is proof that your spirit already knows it is time to release. The weight you feel is not from what you're losing, but from your refusal to let it go. There comes a point when you must ask yourself, do I want to keep carrying this stone, or do I want to walk freely? Do I want to exhaust myself holding on, or do I want to use that same energy to build something new? Letting go is not about abandoning others. It is about choosing not to abandon yourself. It is about saying, my life is too valuable, my energy too sacred, to be wasted on what no longer grows. The moment you release, you shift from survival to freedom. You no longer live in the shadow of what was. You step into the possibility of what could be. The weight of clinging falls away, and suddenly you breathe easier, stand taller, move with more grace. You discover that you never needed to hold on so tightly. You are always capable of standing on your own, always capable of creating joy from within. The weight of clinging becomes the lesson. That freedom is not found in holding on, but in letting go. And when you finally understand this, you will never again mistake heaviness for love or attachment for connection. You will know that the truest relationships are the ones that don't need to be forced, because they are light, alive, and free, just like you. The illusion of permanence is one of the greatest traps of human life. We look at the world around us and assume that the people, the moments, and the circumstances we love will last forever. Deep down, we know they won't, but we build our lives as if they will. This illusion is comforting because permanence promises security. It tells us that the things we cherish are safe, that they will not change, that we can hold them and keep them exactly as they are. But life has never worked that way. Everything is shifting, evolving, dissolving, and reforming. What we call permanence is nothing more than a pause between transformations. When you cling to permanence, you set yourself up for disappointment. Relationships begin, bloom, and sometimes fade. People who once felt inseparable can drift apart, not because anyone has failed, but because life is motion. Circumstances change, priorities shift, paths diverge. To resist this is to demand that the river stop flowing so that you can build your home on its surface. You might convince yourself for a while that the water will hold you, but sooner or later the current will pull away and you will fall. The illusion of permanence is why heartbreak feels so devastating. When you loved someone, you didn't just love them for the moment, you built an unspoken contract in your mind that said, "This will last, this is forever." When that contract is broken, it feels like betrayal, even if no one is to blame. What truly shatters is not love itself, but the illusion you attach to it. The love was real in its time. The mistake was believing it would be immune to change. Even in knowing this, we resist letting go. We replay the past, trying to freeze it. We look at photographs, hear songs, revisit places, and whisper to ourselves, if only it could stay like this. But permanence does not exist in the world outside of us. The tree grows, the leaf falls, the season shifts, the air turns cold. Everything we see is in motion. The attempt to hold on to it is what creates suffering. The truth is liberating but uncomfortable. Nothing belongs to us, not even our own bodies. Every breath is borrowed. Every heartbeat is temporary. The people we love, the successes we celebrate, the pain we endure, all of it is passing through. To demand permanence is to argue against the nature of existence. Life is not meant to be clutched. It is meant to be lived. Why does the illusion grip us so tightly? Because permanence seems to promise safety. If we could make something last forever, we wouldn't have to face the uncertainty of change. You wouldn't have to confront the fear of loss. But by chasing this illusion, we become prisoners. We hold on too tightly to what is leaving, and in doing so, we miss the beauty of what is arriving. Imagine a sunset. If you cling to it, you will despair as it disappears below the horizon. But if you understand that its beauty comes precisely from its impermanence, you savor it more deeply. You allow yourself to be moved by it, knowing it cannot stay. Life, in every form, is like that sunset. Its passing does not make it less beautiful. It makes it sacred. When we accept impermanence, we are no longer devastated by endings. We recognize them as natural, as inevitable, as part of the rhythm of existence. A relationship that ends does not erase the joy it brought. The chapter closing does not diminish the story. It simply makes way for the next. To accept impermanence is to finally see clearly. Nothing is taken from you, only transformed. And this is why letting go is not truly loss. It is alignment with reality. It is the recognition that life cannot be frozen or owned, only experienced. The people who walk away, the seasons that pass, the dreams that shift, these are not betrayals, but reminders. Reminders that you are alive in a world of motion, and your task is not to hold on, but to flow with it. The illusion of permanence is heavy, but once broken, it brings immense freedom. You stop asking life to be something it cannot be. You stop demanding forever from people who can only offer you their now. You stop expecting the world to stand still for your comfort. And in that acceptance, you become lighter. You begin to move with life rather than against it. The mind wants certainty, but the soul thrives in change. When you let go of permanence, you stop fearing endings because you see them as beginnings in disguise. You stop fearing loss because you understand that nothing real is ever truly lost. It simply shifts form. Even the pain you feel today becomes wisdom tomorrow. Even the loneliness of letting go becomes the foundation of strength. The illusion of permanence is seductive, but it keeps you trapped in suffering. The truth of impermanence, though harder to accept, sets you free. Free to live each moment fully without clinging. Free to love deeply without fear of loss. Free to walk away when the time has come, without guilt or despair, because you finally see what was true all along. Everything is passing, and that is precisely what makes it precious. Why letting go is freedom is a truth that is often learned the hard way. At first, the act of release feels like defeat, as though you are giving up on something that should have been yours. We equate holding on with strength and letting go with weakness. But this is a misunderstanding. True weakness lies in the inability to release what is already gone, while true strength lies in unclenching your grip and allowing life to move forward. Freedom does not come from possession. It comes from surrender. When you let go, you are not abandoning your love, your values, or your loyalty. You are abandoning the struggle against reality. The struggle is what keeps you chained, not the situation itself. Think of how exhausting it is to swim against a current that is pulling you elsewhere. You pour all your energy into resisting, but the current does not care. It continues to move, dragging you with it. You emerge tired, broken, and bitter. Not because the water was cruel, but because you refuse to flow with it. Letting go is the moment you stop fighting the current and allow yourself to move freely. That is when peace enters. The beauty of letting go is that it turns endings into beginnings. By releasing what no longer serves you, you open a space inside yourself for something new to arrive. But if your hands are full of the past, how can they receive the future? People often wonder why their lives feel stagnant, why opportunities seem scarce, why joy feels out of reach. The answer is often simple: there is no room. Their lives are so cluttered with attachments, memories, regrets, toxic relationships, that there is no space left for growth. Freedom begins the moment you let go and create that empty space, because emptiness is not a void, it is potential. Letting go also liberates you from illusions. Much of what we cling to is not even real anymore. It is a memory, an expectation, or an image we created in our minds. You may not be holding on to the person as they are today, but the version of them that existed years ago. You may not be clinging to love, but to the fantasy of what love was supposed to look like. In truth, you are fighting with ghosts, and ghosts cannot be held. By letting go, you break free from illusions and return to reality, which, though uncertain, is at least alive. Freedom is not about having everything you want. It is about not being enslaved by what you don't need. A relationship that no longer respects you is not freedom. It is a prison, no matter how much history it carries. A memory you replay 1,000 times is not freedom. It is a chain disguised as comfort. When you let go of these false sources of security, you realize that you were never losing anything essential. What is essential can never leave you. Your dignity, your inner peace, your growth, these are yours to keep if only you stop trading them for attachments that drain your spirit. Universe Unibad, the act of letting go does not mean indifference. It does not mean you no longer care, or that the memories hold no value. It means you honor them without being bound by them. You take the lesson, you cherish the experience, and then you step forward. This is the deepest form of respect for yourself and for the journey of life. To cling is to deny growth, but to let go is to trust in the unfolding of things. Letting go also frees you from the endless need for explanation. How much time have you wasted trying to understand why someone left, why something ended, why life didn't go according to your plans? But not every ending comes with an answer. Not every departure needs a reason. Life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a rhythm to be danced with. When you let go, you stop demanding answers that will never come, and you start embracing the mystery of what is yet to unfold. That is freedom, the freedom to live without needing everything to make sense. There is also a quiet dignity in letting go. Silence becomes your power. When you release without bitterness, without anger, without the need to prove anything, you rise above the chaos. You confuse those who expect you to cling, to beg, to break, and you inspire yourself by realizing that you no longer need to grasp for validation, you carry your worth within. That is freedom, the unshakable knowledge that your value does not depend on who stays or who leaves. Letting go is freedom because it returns you to yourself. You stop scattering your energy across battles that cannot be won, and you gather it back into your soul. You stop chasing after what is leaving, and you start walking toward what is waiting. You stop defining yourself by who accepted or rejected you, and you begin defining yourself by the strength of your own spirit. This is not loss. This is liberation. The next time you feel the ache of release, remember, you are not being emptied, you are being opened. You are not being abandoned, you are being redirected. What you lose is not your life, but the chains that were keeping you from living it fully. To let go is to breathe again, to stand tall again, to walk free again. It is the quiet realization that freedom was never about holding tighter. It was about opening your hands and trusting that life will place into them exactly what belongs. Focus as transformation is one of the most powerful truths a person can discover. The direction of your attention shapes the direction of your life. Whatever you focus on grows, not just in your mind, but in the reality you experience every day. Yet most people spend their focus scattered outward, given away to people, distractions, and situations that drain them. They wonder why life feels chaotic, why progress feels slow, why peace feels impossible. The answer is not in working harder, but in focusing better. Transformation begins the moment you reclaim your attention and turn it inward. When your focus is outward, your energy leaks. You obsess over what others think. You compare your journey to theirs. You measure your worth against their achievements or their opinions. You become a prisoner of external validation, constantly pulled in different directions. But when you shift focus to yourself, the noise quiets. You begin to see clearly what matters and what doesn't. You start to invest your time and energy into the things that actually nurture your growth. This change in focus is not small. It reshapes your entire life. Think of a magnifying glass. When sunlight passes through it unfocused, it is just warmth. But when concentrated, it can ignite a flame. Your life is no different. Your potential is already there, but it becomes transformative only when your focus is sharp. By redirecting your attention to your own growth, your own healing, your own path, you create fire, the fire that lights up transformation. Transformation through focus does not mean selfishness. It does not mean you stop caring for others. It means you stop abandoning yourself for others. It means you no longer trade your dreams for someone else's comfort, no longer dim your light so someone else won't feel insecure. By choosing to focus on yourself, you are not rejecting the world. You are preparing yourself to engage with it more powerfully, more authentically, more fully. This inward focus transforms your relationship with time. You begin to see how much of it has been wasted in distractions. Endless scrolling, meaningless arguments, chasing approval, revisiting the past, worrying about the future. All of these are leaks in your energy, consuming focus without return. But when you choose to focus, you cut through the clutter. You become deliberate with your actions, intentional with your habits, conscious with your choices. Suddenly, what once seemed impossible becomes attainable because your energy is no longer scattered. It is directed. Focus is also what transforms pain into growth. Life will always bring struggle, loss, and disappointment. But what you focus on within that struggle determines whether it destroys you or builds you. Focus on the wound and you suffer endlessly. Focus on the lesson and you rise stronger. This shift does not erase pain, but it transforms it into fuel. Every scar becomes a teacher. Every setback a step forward, simply because you chose to see differently. Transformation through focus also requires letting go. You cannot focus inward if you are still clinging to those who drain you, those who do not respect your boundaries, those who keep you tied to old versions of yourself. Focus demands space, and space requires release. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you are not losing, you are clearing the clutter so your focus can be sharp. And in that sharpness, you discover yourself again. The beauty of focus is that it compounds. The more you give attention to yourself, the more results you see. Small habits grow into lasting change. Small moments of discipline grow into unstoppable momentum. Transformation rarely happens overnight, but through steady focus, you become a different person without even realizing when the shift occurred. One day, you look back and see how far you've come, and you realize it all began with the decision to stop scattering your energy outward. There is also a spiritual dimension to focus. When you stop being distracted by the noise of the world, you begin to hear the quiet guidance of your own intuition. You begin to feel connected to a deeper rhythm of life, one that is always guiding you but often drowned out by external chaos. This connection is transformative because it replaces doubt with trust, fear with clarity, and restlessness with peace. Focus transforms because it teaches you presence. Most people live everywhere but here, in the past, in the future, in other people's lives. But when you focus inward, you root yourself in the now. And the now is the only place where transformation can actually occur. You cannot change the past, and you cannot control the future. But you can focus here today in this moment. That simple choice is enough to reshape everything. If you feel lost, scattered or drained, do not ask what more you should do. Ask instead, where is my focus? If it is tied up in pleasing others, in replaying the past, in chasing illusions, then no wonder life feels heavy. But if you place it on yourself, your growth, your peace, your purpose, you will find life beginning to transform before your eyes. Not because the world outside has changed, but because you have. Focus's transformation is about reclaiming your power. It is about saying, my energy is too precious to be wasted. My life is too short to be scattered. My soul is too valuable to be ignored. You take that focus. You place it inward and you watch as the person you always wanted to be emerges. Not from outside validation, but from the fire you created within. That fire, once lit, cannot be extinguished. And that is the essence of transformation. The power of solitude is one of the most underestimated forces in human life. Most people fear being alone because they mistake it for loneliness. They believe solitude means emptiness, silence means absence, and being with oneself means lacking something. But in truth, solitude is not an absence at all. It is a presence. It is the presence of your own soul, the presence of your unfiltered thoughts, the presence of your authentic self, unshaped by the noise and demands of the world. In solitude, you discover the voice that has always been there, but was drowned out by the opinions, expectations, and distractions of others. The world is constantly pulling you in 1,000 directions, telling you who to be, what to want, and how to live. When you are always surrounded by people, you can easily forget where they end and you begin. But in solitude, the boundaries become clear. You begin to hear yourself again, and in hearing yourself, you remember who you are. Solitude is not weakness. It is not a punishment. It is training ground. Just as muscles need resistance to grow stronger, the soul needs solitude to grow deeper. Alone, you confront your own fears, your doubts, your insecurities. There is no one to distract you, no one to validate you, no one to shield you from yourself. It is in that space that you face what you've been running from. And though it feels uncomfortable, it is also liberating. Because once you learn to be at peace in solitude, nothing outside of you can ever enslave you again. The power of solitude also lies in clarity. Think about how clouded the mind becomes when it is overstimulated. Endless conversations, endless comparisons, endless distractions. You cannot see your path clearly when your focus is scattered across the noise of the world. Solitude strips that away. It is like a still lake where the surface reflects everything with perfect clarity. Alone, your thoughts settle. Alone, your priorities reveal themselves. Alone, you see not what others want from you, but what you truly want for yourself. In solitude, you also discover creativity. Some of the greatest ideas, the most profound works of art, the deepest spiritual insights have come not from crowded rooms, but from moments of aloneness. When you are alone, your mind is free to wander without interruption, to explore depths it never reaches when it is busy reacting to others. Solitude feeds imagination, nurtures vision, and unlocks inner wisdom. It is in the silence of being alone that the loudest revelations often arrive. But perhaps the greatest power of solitude is strength. When you can sit with yourself, when you can stand on your own without needing constant company or validation, you become unshakable. You no longer chase people out of fear of being alone. You no longer beg for attention just to silence the discomfort of your own presence. You begin to choose relationships not from desperation, but from genuine connection. And that difference changes everything. A person who is at peace in solitude is powerful because they do not need anyone to complete them. They are whole already, and wholeness attracts from a place of strength, not weakness. Solitude also teaches you detachment. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you stop being addicted to the presence of others. You realize you can live without constant noise, without constant approval, without constant distraction. You begin to see relationships for what they are meant to be. Choices, not necessities. You stop holding on out of fear because you know you will survive, even thrive on your own. This detachment does not make you cold, it makes you free. The fear of solitude is rooted in misunderstanding. People imagine that being alone means being abandoned. But solitude is not abandonment, it is empowerment. It is the reminder that your worth does not depend on who sits beside you, but on who you are when no one is watching. And once you taste the power of that, you stop fearing solitude altogether. Instead, you seek it not to escape the world, but to return to yourself. It is in solitude that you recharge. Just as the body needs rest from constant movement, the soul needs solitude from constant interaction. Without it, you burn out. You become entangled in everyone else's energy and forget your own. But solitude is the reset button. It replenishes your spirit, sharpens your mind, and grounds you in your own center. That grounding is what allows you to return to the world stronger, calmer, more certain of yourself. When you can embrace solitude, you no longer feel desperate when people leave. You no longer crumble when relationships end. You no longer panic when silence fills the room. Instead, you settle into yourself, knowing that being alone is not a curse, but a chance to grow, to heal, to listen, to create. Solitude gives you back your power because it reminds you that you are enough even when no one else is there. The power of solitude is not in escaping life, but in preparing you for it. The deeper you can go into yourself, the stronger you will be when you step back into the noise of the world. The one who has faced their own solitude walks differently. They are not easily shaken, not easily manipulated, not easily swayed. They carry a quiet strength because they know they are whole, and no one can take that away. So do not fear solitude. Seek it. Embrace it. Sit with it until the discomfort dissolves and the beauty reveals itself. For in solitude you will find not emptiness, but fullness, not loneliness, but strength, not weakness, but freedom. And once you have discovered that power, you will never again confuse the noise of the crowd with the richness of your own soul. To focus on yourself is to step into a new dimension of life where your growth, your peace, and your clarity become more important than the approval of others. Most people live their entire lives tethered to the opinions and demands of those around them. Say their choices not by what feels true, but by what will be accepted, applauded, or tolerated. This is why so many walk through life feeling heavy, burdened, and unfulfilled, because they are carrying the weight of people who were never meant to be carried in the first place. The moment you turn inward and begin to focus on yourself, you reclaim the energy that has been scattered across relationships, obligations, and expectations that were never truly yours. You no longer dilute yourself for the comfort of others. You begin to live as you were meant to, fully, authentically and without apology. When you focus on yourself, you become deeply intimate with your own mind. You notice the patterns that keep repeating, the fears that hold you back, the habits that keep you small. This awareness is not always pleasant. It can be uncomfortable to face the truth of your own limitations. But this discomfort is the soil of transformation. By turning your attention inward, you stop running from yourself and instead meet yourself with honesty. And in this meeting, you begin to grow. The world outside may still clamor for your attention, may still demand that you pour yourself into everyone else's story, but you begin to see that your story matters too. In fact, it matters most, because without it, every other story is hollow. To focus on yourself is not selfishness, though people will often try to label it that way. It is self-preservation. It is a recognition that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot uplift others if you are constantly drained, and that you cannot live your highest truth if you are enslaved to the noise of the world. Think of the tree that grows strong and tall. It does not apologize for rooting itself deeply into the ground, for stretching its branches toward the sun. Its strength does not diminish others, rather it becomes a source of shelter, of shade, of life. When you focus on yourself, you become that tree, grounded, whole, and naturally capable of giving without losing yourself in the process. There is a quiet power in this kind of focus. You begin to notice how much of your energy was wasted in trying to explain yourself, to justify your choices, to win the approval of people who never truly understood you. All of that noise fades when you realize that their perception of you is not your responsibility. You do not need to argue, to convince, to prove. You only need to live in alignment with your own truth. And when you do, you will find a freedom greater than anything the world could offer, the freedom of not needing permission to exist as you are. Focusing on yourself also allows you to refine your vision of life. Instead of being pulled in every direction by the desires and expectations of others, you begin to ask, what do I truly want? What brings me alive? What aligns with my spirit? These questions open doors that were once invisible. They shift your life from one of reaction to one of creation. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances or people's demands. You become the author of your own path. And the more you walk this path, the more you realize that much of what you thought you needed, validation, recognition, approval, was never necessary at all. There will be resistance. The moment you turn inward, those who benefited from your lack of focus will notice. They may call you distant, cold, ungrateful. They may accuse you of abandoning them. But what you are really abandoning is the false version of yourself that kept them comfortable. And while this may sting at first, it is the necessary pain of growth. You cannot step into your highest self while clinging to relationships or dynamics that thrive on your silence and self-betrayal. Focusing on yourself requires courage. It asks you to endure solitude, to embrace moments when it feels as though you are walking alone. But solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is the sacred space where transformation happens. It is in solitude that the voice of your soul becomes clear, no longer drowned out by the endless chatter of others. If you can learn to be at peace with your own company, you will never again feel desperate for someone else's presence. You will choose relationships out of abundance, not lack, because you no longer need others to complete you. You are already whole, and this is the essence of it. When you focus on yourself, you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop begging to be seen, and instead you shine so brightly that those who are meant for you will find you effortlessly. You stop trying to hold on to what is leaving, and instead open your hands to what is meant to arrive. Life has a way of reshaping itself around those who stand firm in their authenticity. When you focus on yourself, you are no longer at the mercy of the world. You are in harmony with it. Your growth, your peace, your path is not negotiable. It is the foundation of everything you are meant to become. Focus on yourself and let them go. Because the truth is, When you stand rooted in who you are, nothing and no one can take that away. And the world, though it may resist at first, will eventually bow to the power of your presence. Growth over attachment is one of the most difficult lessons to learn, yet it is also one of the most liberating. From a young age, we are conditioned to attach to people, to ideas, to places, to outcomes. We are taught that holding on is a sign of loyalty, of love, of commitment, and indeed, attachment can serve a purpose when it is aligned with growth. But when attachment becomes resistance, when we cling to what is ending, what is no longer nourishing, or what keeps us small, it becomes a chain that binds rather than a bond that uplifts. Growth is not found in clinging. It is found in the courage to release, the willingness to move forward, and the strength to embrace transformation, even when it hurts. Attachment creates a kind of tunnel vision. We become so focused on what we are holding on to that we fail to see what is waiting for us. Opportunities pass unnoticed, new experiences are ignored, and our own potential is stifled because our energy is tied up in the past. Growth, on the other hand, requires openness. It requires seeing beyond the familiar and stepping into uncertainty. It requires recognizing that endings are not punishments, but invitations. When we choose growth over attachment, we prioritize our evolution over our comfort, our expansion over our clinging, and our freedom over our fear. The pain of letting go is real, but it is the same pain that precedes transformation. Just as a seed must break open to grow into a tree, our attachments must dissolve to allow for new life to emerge. It is tempting to resist, to hope, to bargain, to linger in the familiar. But no growth ever occurs in stagnant waters. Growth demands movement, and movement demands release. You will never become stronger, wiser, or freer if your hands are clenched around what is no longer yours. Attachment is often tied to identity. We tell ourselves, if I lose this person, this relationship, this situation, I will lose myself. But this is an illusion. What you are is not what you cling to. What you are is what remains when everything else falls away. Growth over attachment teaches us that our essence, our worth, and our power do not depend on the permanence of external circumstances. They are inherent, ever-present, and waiting to be realized once we stop surrendering our energy to what is leaving. One of the most profound aspects of choosing growth over attachment is that it forces us to confront our fears. Fear of loneliness, fear of failure, fear of being forgotten. All of these arise when we cling to something outside of ourselves. But when we prioritize growth, we discover that we are capable of more than we imagined. We can stand alone and not fall. We can rise after loss and become stronger than before. We can navigate uncertainty with clarity and courage. Growth does not eliminate fear, but it transforms it into fuel for forward motion. Another aspect of this principle is understanding the impermanence of everything around us. People, circumstances, and even emotions are transient. When we cling, we are resisting the natural flow of life, trying to impose permanence where it does not exist. Growth over attachment teaches us to flow with life rather than against it. It encourages us to see endings not as tragedies, but as transitions. Every time someone walks away, every time a chapter closes, life is not taking something from you. It is clearing the path for what is next. To grow is to trust this rhythm, to release what is gone, and to open your hands to the possibilities ahead. Attachment often masks itself as love or duty, but it is not the same as authentic connection. True connection does not bind or demand. It nourishes, inspires, and encourages mutual growth. Clinging, by contrast, is a sign that something has already lost its vitality. To choose growth over attachment is to respect yourself enough to let go of relationships, habits, or situations that no longer serve your evolution. It is a declaration that your life is too precious to be wasted on stagnation. and that your path forward matters more than your fear of letting go. The act of choosing growth over attachment also brings clarity and peace. Once you release what is holding you back, you begin to see the world differently. Your energy is no longer scattered on trying to maintain illusions or salvage the unsalvageable. Your focus sharpens, your decisions become more aligned, and your life begins to reflect your deepest intentions. You learn to distinguish between what is worth keeping and what is worth releasing. You learn that love, respect, and purpose are not found in clinging, but in allowing life to unfold naturally. Growth over attachment is about prioritizing yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a sacred, necessary way. It is about understanding that the life you are meant to live requires freedom from the past, courage to step into the unknown, and faith in your own resilience. Every time you choose growth, you honor yourself, your potential, and the journey you are on. You demonstrate that your value is not determined by what you hold, but by the strength to let go and the courage to move forward. Choosing growth over attachment is the quiet revolution within the soul. It is the decision to stop clinging to shadows and start chasing light. It is the recognition that endings are not threats, but invitations to evolve. And it is the unwavering commitment to your own path, your own purpose, and your own becoming. Every time you prioritize growth over attachment, you step closer to the freedom, clarity, and power that were always meant to be yours. Energy is precious, yet most people squander it without realizing its true value. From the moment we wake until the moment we sleep, our energy is constantly being pulled in 1,000 directions through conversations, obligations, distractions, and the unrelenting pressures of the world. Every moment spent reacting to someone else's drama, worrying about things beyond our control, or chasing approval is a moment lost. Energy, unlike money or possessions, cannot be regained once it is spent. It is the currency of your life, the force that fuels your growth, creativity, and peace. To understand its value is to understand how to live deliberately. When you focus on yourself, you begin to see how easily energy can be drained by attachments, resentment, and unnecessary commitments. People, situations, and even habits that do not serve your higher purpose are like leaky vessels. They consume your vitality while offering nothing in return. Yet, most of us treat this drain as normal, accepting exhaustion, frustration, and distraction as the inevitable cost of living. But life is not meant to be survived in a constant state of depletion. Energy is precious, and once you recognize this, you begin to guard it fiercely. You begin to understand that what you give your attention to is not trivial. It is the shaping of your life. Energy is also affected by what you think. The mind is a generator, producing thoughts, emotions, and impulses that either strengthen or weaken you. Worry, jealousy, regret, and anger are all energy thieves. They demand your attention, stir your emotions, and leave you exhausted. By contrast, thoughts of clarity, focus, gratitude, and purpose multiply your energy, creating momentum that propels you forward. Learning to manage your mental energy is as critical as managing your physical energy. When you focus inward and prioritize your own growth, you begin to filter the thoughts and influences that are worthy of your attention, and in doing so, you amplify your power. One of the most subtle ways energy is wasted is in trying to control what cannot be controlled. People, outcomes, and circumstances are constantly shifting. The more you resist this natural flow, the more energy you expend. Those who cling to control exhaust themselves, attempting to mold the world to fit their desires. Those who understand that energy is precious learn to direct it toward what they can influence, their own thoughts, actions, and choices, and let go of what is beyond their reach. This redirection is not resignation. It is mastery. It is the conscious decision to preserve your vitality for creation rather than distraction, for growth rather than frustration. Energy is also impacted by relationships. People who drain you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually are consuming your most valuable resource. Toxic friendships, manipulative colleagues, and unsupportive family members are all thieves of energy. To preserve your power, you must learn to distance yourself, set boundaries, and, if necessary, release relationships that demand more than they give. This is not cruelty. It is self-respect. It is recognizing that your energy is finite and choosing to invest it where it will flourish rather than diminish. Focusing on yourself does not mean isolation. It means prioritization. It means investing your energy in what aligns with your growth, your purpose, and your peace. It means spending time in solitude to recharge, creating rituals that sustain your mind and body, and engaging with the world selectively rather than compulsively. Every choice about where to place your attention is a choice about where your energy goes. And when you treat your energy as precious, you begin to navigate life with clarity, intention, and power. Energy is also amplified through presence. When you are fully present in a moment, your energy is concentrated, your awareness sharpens, and your impact magnifies. Scattered attention dilutes energy. Undivided focus intensifies it. To live fully, you must learn to immerse yourself in the task, the thought, or the relationship that matters without being pulled away by noise or distraction. This is why focusing on yourself is transformative. It teaches you to direct your energy, to preserve it, and to use it wisely in creating the life you desire. The ultimate lesson in valuing your energy is understanding impermanence. Time is limited, and energy is limited. Every day that passes, every moment spent reacting rather than creating, is a moment you cannot reclaim. Those who recognize this truth do not give their energy to trivialities or to people who do not honor it. They invest it in growth, clarity, and purpose. They choose peace over drama, focus over distraction, and action over anxiety. They understand that energy is the foundation of everything: success, happiness, health, and wisdom. Without it, nothing else matters. When you truly appreciate the preciousness of your energy, you begin to live differently. You stop chasing things that drain you. You stop trying to prove yourself to those who will never understand. You stop holding on to what is leaving. Instead, you focus on what nourishes you, strengthens you, and propels you forward. You begin to live intentionally, fully aware that every thought, word, and action either builds you up or tears you down. Energy is precious because it is life itself. Guard it, protect it, and invest it wisely. Let go of the drains, the distractions, the clinging, and the fear. Focus on yourself, focus on your growth, focus on the path that aligns with your deepest purpose. When you do, you will discover a power within you that is steady, unshakable, and radiant. And you will realize that life does not demand exhaustion. It demands clarity, focus, and the courage to honor your own energy above all else. Silence is not emptiness. It is a statement, a presence, a force that speaks louder than words ever could. Most people fear silence because they mistake it for weakness. They believe that to be quiet is to be passive, invisible, or irrelevant. But in reality, silence is the language of power, the way in which those who have mastered themselves communicate without effort. When you focus on yourself and step back from the chaos of constant explanation, defense, or justification, you create a space where your presence alone commands attention. You let life and the people around you respond to the depth of who you truly are, rather than to the noise you produce. To let them wonder is to reclaim your energy and your dignity. When you are always explaining yourself, always justifying your choices, you give away pieces of your power. People begin to believe they have ownership over your time, your attention, and even your worth. But when you choose silence, when you focus on your growth, rather than on their understanding, you demonstrate that your life is not up for debate. The mystery you create by not reacting constantly, by not seeking approval, and by not defending your path becomes a force that draws respect and intrigue. Silence, in this sense, is magnetic. Silence is also a mirror. When others are left to wonder, they reflect on their assumptions, their judgments, and their expectations. You no longer need to confront every misperception or dispute every criticism. Your quiet strength forces others to pause, to reassess, and sometimes to realize that your absence of reaction carries more weight than 1,000 arguments. This is why the most powerful people in history, those who have moved mountains and transformed worlds, often chose restraint over verbosity. They understood that the energy spent defending yourself is better invested in building yourself. When you focus inward and let others wonder, you embrace the ultimate freedom, freedom from the need for external validation. So much of human suffering comes from trying to be understood, to be approved, or to be loved by everyone. But the truth is, not everyone will understand, approve, or love you. And that is okay. By remaining silent, by stepping back from the compulsion to explain, you affirm that your value is not dependent on perception. It is inherent. It is rooted in your own awareness of who you are and what you are becoming. Silence is a shield as well as a sword. It protects you from unnecessary conflict, gossip, and energy drain. When someone tries to provoke, manipulate, or control you, silence disarms them. It removes the fuel from their fire. In moments where words might escalate tension or spread misunderstanding, silence stands firm, unshakable. It signals strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance, and awareness without entitlement. Those who practice the power of quiet presence do not need to assert themselves constantly. Their authority is felt in the space they occupy and the choices they make. The act of letting them wonder is also an act of self-discipline. In a world addicted to reaction, to immediate response, to constant expression, choosing silence is a rare and difficult mastery. It requires patience, trust, and faith that life will honor your focus and your integrity. You do not need to justify your absence or explain your boundaries. You do not need to chase those who do not respect your presence. By remaining calm and composed, by letting your actions speak rather than your words, you cultivate influence far greater than any argument or persuasion could achieve. Silence is transformative, not only for others, but for yourself. When you withdraw from the need to perform, to react, or to explain, you step fully into your own space. You begin to notice the subtle currents of life, the opportunities, the insights, the moments of clarity that are drowned out by constant noise. Your inner world becomes richer, your thinking sharper, and your decisions clearer. The quieter you are, the more you connect with your own essence, and the more aligned your actions become with your deepest purpose. To let them wonder is to remind yourself that life is not a negotiation. You are not here to meet everyone's expectations, to satisfy every curiosity, or to fill every void in someone else's perception. Your energy is yours to steward, your focus is yours to direct, and your growth is yours to cultivate. By stepping back and embracing silence, you assert that your life is too valuable to be consumed by endless explanations, opinions, or distractions. You choose substance over spectacle, depth over drama, and authenticity over approval. The power of silence is in its permanence. Words can be forgotten, arguments can be ignored, and defenses can be countered. But presence, composure, and focus are eternal. When you let others wonder, they will remember the aura of strength, the calm certainty, and the quiet confidence that surrounds you. They will see that your life is not determined by external chaos, but by your inner mastery. And that is the essence of true power. The ability to live fully, authentically, and unapologetically without needing to explain yourself to anyone. When you embrace silence, when you focus on yourself and let others wonder, you step into a realm where your life is yours alone. You are free from distraction, free from manipulation, and free from the incessant need for approval. You walk through the world untethered, confident and strong, and in your quiet presence, you teach a lesson far more enduring than words could ever convey. That the most powerful people are not those who shout the loudest, but those who know when to be still, when to observe, and when to let life unfold around them while they continue to grow, unshaken and unstoppable. As we reach the end of this journey, the message becomes clear. Your life is not defined by the chaos around you, the judgments of others, or the distractions that constantly pull at your attention. It is defined by where you place your focus, how fiercely you protect your energy, and how courageously you choose yourself above all else. To focus on yourself is to reclaim your power, to embrace your growth, and to step into a life that is authentic, deliberate, and unstoppable. Every struggle, every moment of doubt, every relationship that drains you has a purpose, to teach you the value of your own presence. By turning inward, by embracing solitude, by prioritizing growth over attachment, and by allowing others to wonder while you remain silent, you step into a higher way of living, a way in which your life is not dictated by external noise, but guided by your inner clarity. Focusing on yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. It is the foundation for transformation, the fuel for achievement, and the path to true freedom. When you let go of what no longer serves you, guard your energy fiercely, and live with intentionality, you discover a power that no one can take away. You become unshakable, radiant, and magnetic, not because you seek recognition, but because your life speaks louder than words ever could. Let this be your call to action. Stop scattering your energy, stop seeking approval from those who cannot give it, and stop clinging to what is leaving. Turn inward. Cultivate your mind, your habits, and your spirit. Stand in your silence. Embrace your solitude and watch as life aligns with your growth. Let them wonder. Let the world pause. And let your life become a testament to the strength, clarity, and freedom that comes when you choose yourself first. In the end, the only life worth living is the one you build with intention, guided by focus, and lived in alignment with your truth. Focus on yourself, grow relentlessly, protect your energy, embrace your power, and let the rest unfold naturally. Your journey is yours alone, and when you honor it fully, you will discover that everything you ever needed was already within you. Your silence is strength, your focus is power, and your life, fully claimed, fully lived, is the ultimate answer.